Welcome, everyone. I call this June 9th, 2026 meeting of Council to order at 5:30 p.m. This meeting will be held in a hybrid manner where members of council, staff, and the public can participate electronically. This meeting is being live streamed and recorded and will be available on the township website. Notice is hereby provided that under the authority of the Municipal Act 2001, and in accordance with Municipal Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act, that all information attained is considered part of the public record. All rules apply to the meeting as if everyone was attending in person, and if there is a problem with the technology impacting the proceedings of the meeting may be recessed. At this time, I'd ask everyone that can to rise for the playing of the national anthem. We acknowledge that we're being hosted on the ancestral lands of the Haudenosaunee, Mississauga, and Omama-Winnene people. We acknowledge and welcome the presence of all Indigenous people, including the Métis, Inuit, and other First Nations from across this vast land, who also makes this place home. The lands we're on today are recognized in the Two-Row Wampum, Dish with One Spoon Treaty, Treaty 27, and the Crawford Purchase. Okay, so the first item up is a confirmation of the agenda. Could I have a mover? Councillor Willis, so moved. Councillor Broderick, seconded. All in favor? Motion is passed. Any declarations of pecuniary interest or the general nature thereof for this evening's meeting? Councillor Broderick.
Declaring on 11.2 and 11.3, and the paperwork is already filed.
Thank you. Any other declarations? Seeing none, I would entertain a motion to go into closed session if someone could read it as they make the motion, please. Councillor Willis?
I move that council now move into closed session to consider a position plan, procedure, criteria, or instruction to be applied to negotiations on matters related to township cemetery operations pursuant to section 239 2K of the Municipal Act.
So moved. Seconded by Councillor Broderick. All in favor? Motion is passed. We're going to closed. Okay. Welcome, everyone. We actually started our council meeting at 5:30. We have been in closed session for almost half an hour. And I would do a rise and report. The council received advice considering a position, plan, procedure, criteria, or instruction to be applied to negotiations on matters related to township cemetery operations pursuant to section 239(2)K of the Municipal Act. Okay, so the next one up is open forum. 15 minutes of the meeting has been set aside for open forum. Any individual may address council regarding an item on the agenda, excluding matters under the statutory public meeting section on the same agenda. Each person has 3 minutes to speak. Anyone wishing to speak can register in advance, which we have had some do. Or I will call out in chambers if there's anyone additional after the registered ones have spoke. If anyone else wishes to speak, then you can come forward and do that. And I will also go to the virtual audience. Just a heads up, I'll go to the virtual audience after in chambers. And we just ask you use the raised hand feature so we know you wish to speak and we can bring you into the meeting. So today we did have 5 pre-register, and I believe we've got some more that are wish to speak this evening. So council, maybe best right off the start. Since we do have more than what will fit in 15 minutes, do we want to extend it now or wait until the 15 minutes is up and extend it at that time? I'm thinking we might as well go ahead and do it now and just extend it by additional 10 minutes or 12 minutes, something like that. Someone like to make a motion? Councillor Proderick. Councillor Budrick. Carry on.
Still move to extend open forum.
Thank you. 12 minutes or so?
Sure.
Okay, just so we have a number. Seconded by Councillor Ennis. All in favor? Motion is carried. Apologize for that. Now my first, and it probably won't be my last that I do that. So the first one that was registered is Lorna Thorne. So if you could just come forward, have a seat in front of one of the mics, push the button so that the light comes on, and that way the virtual audience can hear you as well.
Mayor Hagedorn and councillors, thank you again for the opportunity to speak to you. As you know, the LAC has been operating for about 13 years after a substantial amount of taxpayer dollars was spent to reinvent it from a fire hall. It took 25 years to consolidate the recreation program at the LAC, and it has only taken 4 months to try to undermine the work that has been achieved. 700 residents utilize this facility yearly, and with the growth in the township, these numbers are only going to increase. This is our community center. The dispensing of programs in multiple locations takes a step back from the goal of centralizing programs under one roof. At present, there are 20 hours of fitness classes per week at the LAC. Through the new plan, forecasts 13 to 15 hours of programming at various sites. This decrease in 5 to 7 hours will affect evening and weekend classes, which contradicts what we have been told about no changes to services. The closure will also impact seasonal long-term rentals, and we are very concerned about the continuation of all programs, especially children's programming. We are here representing the constituents of the township. We have talked to our neighbors and the public living in Loyalist Township. The overwhelming response is please do not close this facility, which is so vital to the community. We are empathetic to the fact Loyalist is underserved for childcare services, but surely not at the expense of the closure of the Loyalist Activity Center. Remember, it is not about the boys and girls deadline, but about making the correct decision for the whole community. Thank you.
Thank you. The next registered speaker, Carla Rogers. Same thing, if you could just turn the mic on after you sit down, and then you can go ahead and present.
Good evening, Mayor Hagedorn and members of council. Thank you again for the opportunity to speak tonight on the subject of the LAC. My name is Carla Rogers, and I spoke to council on this issue a few weeks ago. At that time, I spoke about the flaws in the report and the plan presented by staff. I would like to remind council that the original report stated that the reason for closing the LAC was the need to, and I quote, reduce operating pressures, improve overall service delivery efficiency, and better align recreation programming with available and sustainable spaces. This was presented to council and residents under the banner of Under One Roof, with projected savings of $55,000 a year. So now, after the LAC users have spent many hours identifying the weaknesses in this plan, council has the opportunity to make the right decision. The new proposed solution is the opposite of Under One Roof. Instead of keeping programs together in a well-used space, the plan would split them across 4 or more locations, some of which have not even yet been finalized. Renting a dance studio puts programming at risk because of blackout periods that don't even exist now. There are also transportation and parking concerns with that location. Moving programs to a church and other township facilities would create the very confusion that we were originally told the plan was set out to avoid. And the savings have now dropped to less than half of the original estimate to $24,000 a year. I absolutely recognize the need for daycare spaces. However, I question whether the Kingston Boys and Girls Club has fully explored venues that are already vacant during the week. Churches regularly seek community use and support. Bay Park Church, for example, has hosted a daycare for more than 30 years. Have they considered portable classrooms? Lark has successfully operated a daycare and portable classrooms on the property of the school in Odessa for over 30 years, and my own children and my grandchildren have been very well cared for there. Today, I drove through the industrial park where the dance studio is located, and I was quite surprised to see a big sign advertising 3,000 square feet of space currently available for lease. Have the Kingston Boys and Girls Club inquired about that space? The staff report also states that the LAC must close by August 1st so that capital and fit-ups can be completed in time to meet the Boys and Girls Club's December 31st deadline. I did not see in the report the details of those capital and fit-up requirements clearly identified, nor the cost estimate for completing them. And I question, will Loyalist taxpayers cover the costs, or will the Kingston Boys and Girls Club cover those costs? And I also ask, will the daycare spaces prioritize Loyalist children, or is it a first-come, first-served list of the broader Kingston area? Council should think carefully and not be pressured into making this decision to fit the Kingston Boys and Girls Club schedule. There's a saying, your emergency is not my problem. This decision should be made with complete information, careful consideration, and without haste. And I continue to respectfully ask that you vote for reconsideration on this topic.
Thank you. The next speaker, Maureen Sharp.
Mayor Hagedorn and council, you have a very big, important decision to make tonight. Do you allow one of your few well-used community buildings to close to give 49 children daycare, but disperse hundreds of regular tax-paying users across 4 different facilities to pay rent at 2 of the facilities? A decision that you will make and make one group very happy and the other group unsure what their future looks like. Council, you can't win this one. My name is Maureen Sharp. I am a regular user of the fitness class at LAC. My children are the 6th generation on our farm on Maple Road. For 27 years, I worked for Loyalist Township. I am well aware of the staff's responsibility to give council all the information they require to make clear, informed decisions. My grandson has been on the waiting list for daycare space since before he was born 2 years ago. so I understand the importance of daycare in our community. But I wonder if Loyalist Township residents will be given priority access to the 49 spots. I can't help but feel the reports presented to you from staff, including today's, are lacking in information, investigation, and a clear understanding of what current participants and taxpayers want and need. I now see the proposal to lease the LAC as time sensitive, which I feel forced staff to quickly present recommendations without a thorough investigation of the few available options. The survey in today's report resulted in what we already told them. We are happy to move somewhere suitable. Staff live testing, why staff? For half hour twice a week for 3 weeks in one of the 4 building options is in no way could have been useful to determine how we, the program users, use the space. I acknowledge the work to come up with a plan in a short period of time, but this plan is in no way ready to implement in such short notice. There are way too many concerns and flaws. Fitness class and yoga on Saturdays and Sundays, or evening fitness at the WJH means meeting room during hockey season and through tournaments, not an overly cohesive space. The Amherst View Community Hall would need a bit of a retrofit to make it work. Most importantly, the report isn't proving consistency. With the blackout times at the Rhythm Dance Center studio, or when church needs their space for a funeral, or the community hall has a rental. Today's report has offered alternative spaces, yes, but it does not verify suitability or maintain service levels. No other public or private spaces in Loyalist or Stone Mills could fulfill the Boys and Girls Club deadline requirement. It took years to develop LAC. Why do you think you can do it in 6 months? Why would you vote to close a facility that works? I do have one request. If you do close LAC as a fitness facility, could you authorize staff to work with the fitness group to find suitable solutions for everyone? Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, Trish Savransky. Please go ahead.
Good evening, Mayor, councilors, and staff. I'm here tonight in support of keeping our LAC open. I think it is great that the Boys and Girls Club have a chance of obtaining a grant to open a daycare. And knowing this, it gives me no pleasure to say that I believe their benefits should not be our losses. It has taken a long time for us to get where we are now, and it works. It may be not at the arena yet, or in a big gym, which we do not require, but it is under one roof, as I believe was important to the staff. If you say yes to closing the LAC, there is no turning back. I believe renting these spaces in different locations that is not under one roof will be problematic, as it has been in the past for staff and members. And these programs will also be more vulnerable because now we are not owners, we are renters. If something goes wrong, then we are back to square one, looking for new locations with transition delays and lack of continuity and potential loss of revenue. It is super important that in today's day and age that we keep our sense of community under that one roof with continuity and security, with a well-run building that the staff and LAC provide for us. Even though recreation is nonprofit, just a reminder, we are still bringing in $65,000 a year for fitness programs alone. That does not include the children's programs and the potential to untap revenue right there at the LAC. One of the staff said that having a daycare will increase extra parents going back to work and helping the economy. I just want to say that 130 adult members have been contributing to the last 40, 50, and 60 years, and they are still doing so. When I look up Stats Canada, I found out that Loyalist Township, 5% of the population are 4 years and old and younger, whereas 37% of the population is 55 and older, and that was in 2021. I think those numbers are important to remember. In one of the other reports, it talks about 56% of the children on a wait list for daycare. I'm not doubting those numbers, but I think that percentage deserves some clarification considering the geographic area that it refers to, and also keeping in mind the timeframe of pregnancy, mat leave. That need for daycare, even though they're on a wait list, may not be required for 2 to 3 years down the road. Those are just my thoughts. In conclusion, I want to say, along with many others, I can definitely understand a little bit more about the work of mayor, councilors, and staff that they have. The amount of information that comes across your desk, and I'm sure is overwhelming. We as a group have worked hard for the last 4 months to help show you additional important information on this matter. Thank you so much for listening to us the last while, and it's been a pleasure to you a little bit more.
Thank you. And the last registered speaker on my sheet is Harold Parsons. And as I mentioned, just as he's coming forward, I do know there's others in the audience that wishes to speak. Once Harold is done, I will just go in chambers and ask for you to raise your hands to come forward. So when you're ready, please proceed.
Thank you, Mayor, Council, and delegates that spoke before me. I thought I'd just speak a little bit about the staff report and about the plans that have been recognized and the needs in Loyalist Township. We certainly are not here as an organization to displace meaningful fitness, health, and having seniors and adults vibrant and support the community. We're here because the space is suitable to accommodate 49 children in a licensed program, daycare. The grant, as was mentioned earlier, is not a Boys and Girls grant. Loyalist Township was awarded by the province because it's underserved in the sense of daycare spaces. This is not something that our club brought up or even figured out. This is provincially driven and provincially funded. There is no money from taxpayers for the renovation of the space. Somewhere around $800,000 would be part of the proposal from the province to have the space suitable for daycare. As far as the use, what we do see is that it is obviously for Loyalist Township residents as a priority. If it's been established that there's a need for daycare, it would make no sense to have others from other communities come in and take those spaces. We do understand that there's a lot to be done in the sense of community, but we do feel that, we did not bring families upon families here tonight to talk about daycare issues and needs, partly because, quite frankly, it hasn't been started yet or signed, and it just wouldn't be fair to those as well. 417 spaces, children are looking for daycare. You have to make a decision. We understand that. From a Boys and Girls Club perspective, we're simply the provider. You could be any provider here for Seawalk funding, but I can tell you that nobody else stepped up because of the challenges for space. The time frame is not directed by Boys and Girls Club. It's a provincial deadline of December 31st. Would we want to wait for a full year to figure things out? Obviously, we would. The funding is short-term in the sense of opportunity. It's now. You have a choice to make in the sense of a daycare. If it goes through, we're very happy to step up and do it. If it does not go through, we will continue to look at alternative locations like we have been. And if one shows up, we'll be more than happy to continue with that funding as well. Beyond that, see us as a partner for the community, both young and old. Thank you.
Thank you. Excuse me. That completes the list that I had. So there's other members in chambers that wishes to speak. Please come forward. Actually, the button's already pushed, so just have a seat. And if you could share your information.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. My name is Artem Bogachuk. I live at 214 Pratt Drive in Loyalist Township in Amherst, just steps away from the Henderson Center. I didn't really prepare the speech today because I honestly found out about this just over an hour ago, maybe 2 hours ago. Just wanted to share my perspective and a bit of an experience from my family points of view. So me, my wife, and little Mark that you guys are hearing across from other door, we've been living here for about 4 years. And unfortunately, I found myself in the situations where I have to work 3 jobs in order to get ahead with the rising cost of living. My wife wakes up in the morning at 7 o'clock and she works as late as 10 o'clock sometimes because of the economy we're finding ourselves in. My wife's entire salary from the business of hers is going towards paying for a nanny to stay with our child at home so her business doesn't go belly up. It's very important to know that when my wife was pregnant, she was on the 14th month. We called in the local daycare in Loyalist Township where I live and I personally love to say if we can participate in their program for the daycare. They told me that I'm an astonishing 170 in the line in order to get a daycare in Loyalist Township. A lady told us that on average they take on 10 kids a year, which means that by the time, before even Mark was born, but by the time he's going to be admitted to the daycare, he's going to be 17 years old and he's going to go to high school. I don't want to be driving my child every morning to Kingston to find them a spot there. And even then, I'm doomed. I don't have the connections in the government. I don't know the neighbors or friends or influential people that can help me get in the spot because somebody knows somebody. I truly need your help, and I want my child to stay in the local daycare center so me and my wife can work, and we can put the food on the table, we can pay for our bills, and just like the folks behind me, we can leave something behind for our kids, and they can leave something to their kids as a legacy to carry on. I don't think the situation is going to improve with the economy, but by the way that things are going. And just if I have 25 more seconds left, after I was banging on every door in Kingston Loyalist Township to see if anybody can edit my kid so we can both work, I know that what Boys and Girl Clubs does in Kingston is absolutely phenomenal. They've taken so many kids off the streets and created the safe space for them to communicate, socialize, and prevent a lot of crime, I think, potentially in the Kingston region. That would be the best thing that could happen in our environment, and with the help of those that with the help of you guys, if you choose to vote in that direction. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in chambers that wishes to speak this evening? Seeing, if you could just provide your name when you sit down as well. Sure.
It's John Palmer, retired. I came to Bath area 30-some years ago, and it's only recently that I found out they had a senior exercise group, which I attend and I enjoy. On about I guess a month ago, we found out that you people come out one day and said we're going to close it. You never told us why you're closing it. There was no mention of what's going to happen. So we've been here 3 or 4 times now to fill you in that, you know, we the seniors, we need motion. Otherwise we sit and decay. So we need motion. The thing is too is you people spent, and I'm not knocking it, you spent about $6 million on the pool and the rink. A lot of us don't use either or because of our age. I mean, we could swim, but it's not a thing you're going to do it every day. But we need an exercise, and it's been working well. I don't know. Now you're going to be paying for 2 different facilities to keep us in an area. So that's got a cost. It's just, I can't understand why you people have canceled it. It was working well. Like I understand in the past history, they spent a fair bit of money to get this thing set up for that reason. Now you're taking it away from us. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in chambers that wishes to speak under open forum this evening? Seeing none, I'll go to the virtual audience. If there's anyone in the virtual audience that wishes to speak under open forum, please use the raised hand feature and you can be brought into the meeting.
No one's raised their hand.
Thank you. So with that, that concludes open forum, and we will move forward into items for consideration. First item up, Development Charges Reduction Program. Welcome.
Good evening.
Do you have anything additional to share this evening, or just here to answer questions?
I do have some additional information, Your Worship, if I may.
Please proceed.
Thank you. So through you. So staff has now had more of an opportunity to review the program guidelines and application form for this program in detail. These items were just released by the province late last week and early this week. So further review that we've done has confirmed that the Main Street and Windermere project that is recommended is not eligible as it has commenced construction. The program is focused on accelerating the delivery and implementation of projects that are included in the municipality's current DC background study, but does state that they are not to have commenced construction. So staff has turned our effort to the alternate project that's listed in the report, which is a bundled project including the urbanization of Amherst Drive and infrastructure projects related to making the Amherst U West secondary plan lands ready to house new development. As the timelines are incredibly short for this program, staff and engineering at this point are still working on updating the estimates related to this bundle of projects, but we anticipate that bundle of projects being in the $3 to $4 million range, which is in line with what we're looking for the total cost of the project to apply to the program. So as such, staff is now recommending an alternate recommendation, which changes, thank you, Jacob, which changes the second item to reflect that bundled project related to the Amherst Drive urbanization and Amherst U West secondary plan lands. So I apologize for these changes. We're doing our best with the information that we have as it's provided in pieces with a tight turnaround. So this is the first piece. The second thing I just wanted to note to council is that staff has received a question after the agenda was published regarding the possible inclusion of connection fees, which are charged for growth-related water and sewer projects. So these are also known as impost fees. So staff has reviewed this request and also has conferred with legal counsel a little bit. So the DCRP program guidelines do not speak to or contemplate the inclusion of impost fees and clearly state that the projects for which funding is sought must be included in the current development charges background study. So staff does not recommend including these fees in the relief to be provided to the builder community as part of this recommendation. Because the township would not be eligible to apply for funding for these growth-related water and sewer projects that are associated with those fees because they are not included in the DC background study. So I hope that's clear. If it's not, I'm happy to answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
So council, with the revisions presented, are there any questions for clarification? Councillor Willis.
Thank you, through your worship. So this gives a break to the developers and reduces their cost to build a house. How are we assured that those cost savings will be passed on to the people that actually buy the houses?
Through the mayor to Councillor Willis, we're not.
Yes.
The staff report says that we have a choice of reducing development charges by 30 to 50%. Given that the different projects now are part of it, are you still recommending 50 or would you recommend something different?
Through the mayor. The bundled projects actually altogether have a bit of a higher value than the DC related costs associated with the original project that we were recommending. So the assumptions related to, if the number of residential permits pulled and the value of those DCs are similar to what we've experienced over the last 5 years on average, then we would be likely to recuperate the lost revenue from those DCs reduced to 50% from funding associated with this project. But with any project that we might look at, or any value of reduction that we might look at for the development charges, the like equivalence of those two numbers is dependent on the number of permits that are taken out. So we don't have a crystal ball. We can't expressly predict how many permits or what the value of that reduced revenue would be, but based on the average, it would align reasonably well, this project, with the estimate if there was an average similar to the average over the last 5 years of the development charges that have been accessed.
Any other questions for clarification? Councillor Budrick.
I guess for those who don't know, what just some highlight stuff for the Amherst Drive urbanization project? Obviously, everyone is very aware of the Amherst West side, but just that side, if you could.
Certainly. So through the mayor to Councillor Budrick. It's related to work between Spears Boulevard and County Road 6 along Amherst Drive. So there's stormwater work and road work that needs to be undertaken. Part of this is funded through frontage fees that are collected from developers, and the remaining portion is funded through, or is proposed to be funded through, or was included in the development charges background study to be funded by development charges.
Any other questions for clarification? Seeing none? Someone's prepared, I would entertain a motion. Councillor Broderick.
Thank you. I would move that the report from the Corporate Services Strategy and Innovation Department dated June 9th, 2026, redevelopment charges reduction program be received, and that council authorize staff to submit an application to the development charges reduction program for a bundle of projects related to Amherst Drive urbanization and the Amherst West secondary plan lands, and that council directs staff to take the necessary actions to reduce development charges for all residential development types by 50% for a period of 3 years from March 30th, 2006, if the application to the cutoff development charges reduction program is approved by the province.
So moved. Seconded by Councillor Budrick.
I will second, but just as a note, he said 2006, not 2026, just on
Okay.
March 30th. But I will second it.
Thank you.
Eyes aren't doing very well there.
Mover, any comments?
No.
Seconder, other members of council? Deputy Mayor Townend.
Plenty. So I thank Councillor Willis for her question, because it reveals to anybody listening that this is corporate welfare. And our federal government is ideologically disposed to think that that's going to generate economic growth and housing starts. We have a provincial government that is obsessed with DCs in the GTA and refuses to recognize that they're not the same across the rest of the province. And it is seemingly impossible to get through to the upper orders of government that stable and consistent funding are essential to maintain our infrastructure and our assets. And it's particularly hard to get the provincial government to understand that when ironically, they're the ones ensuring that we have asset management plans, which of course Loyalist had long before the province mandated them. I'm going to support the motion because we got to get what money we can. The voters should be aware with how they vote in other elections about the constraints on municipal government to maintain our infrastructure and how much we are constantly having to go cap in hand to beg for whatever small pots of money the upper orders give us.
Thank you. Councillor Willis.
Through your worship, I also have a perspective on this. The concern that I have, and I am also going to support the motion because we do need affordable housing, but a like for like house. So a house that was built 2 years ago and cost $800,000. Now has no HST on it and also has reduced development charges and will be bought for $660,000. The person who bought that house at $800,000 can't sell it now. So there are unintended consequences to these well-intended programs that are going to end up hurting our residents. So I will support it because it's money we need, but we need to be thoughtful when we're looking at these things.
Thank you. Any other comments? Being none, back to the mover. That was you, Ed. Any final comments?
No comments.
Thank you. So with that, I'll call the question. All in favor? Motion is passed. Thank you. And next up is the Leisure and Activity Center reassessment findings and considerations.
Thank you, Your Worship. Sorry about that.
Welcome. Did you have anything additional to share this evening or just here for answer questions?
Your Worship, and back to the elected office through your chair. We do have some additional information just to respond to some of the information that was shared in open forum. So in this report, we have addressed that service levels that are expected are maintained. So we do have 20 hours of fitness classes that are outlined in this report. And 75% of those programs that are going to be moving to an alternative location will be moving to Rhythm Dance Center, and the other 25% would be moving to the WJH Community Room or ACH as an alternative location. So it does maintain our current service levels as outlined in this report. Thank you, Worship.
Thank you.
All right.
Did you have additional information? No? Okay, thank you. So, council, we do have a recommendation before us. Would someone like to put a motion on the floor so we can, you want a question for clarification? Okay, please. As long as it's for clarification, I can go before the motion.
It's for clarification, yeah. So I know that there were surveys that were done. Now that the whole plan is before us, so including the daycare, have you had interactions with the group that uses the LAC and gotten feedback from them in person?
As a response back through your worship to Councillor Willis, we did have a follow-up meeting with our LAC advocacy group last Thursday. We did go over some of the findings of feedback, as well as the lack of suitability of the current space that was outlined in the original plan. We did invite the LAC advocacy group for a site visit at Rhythm Dance Studio today, and it was a successful site visit.
Other questions for clarification? Seeing none, I'll go back to, I would entertain a motion to be put on the floor so we can move forward with this item. Councilor Broderick?
I'll throw it out there. Make a recommendation that the report from the Recreation Parks and Facilities Division, Community Customer Service Department dated June 9th, 2026, Leisure and Activity Center reassessment findings and considerations be received as a follow-up to the petition and concerns raised, and that council authorize the mayor and clerk to execute the necessary agreements for the use of alternative space for the delivery of recreation and leisure programs to the satisfaction of the CAO.
So moved. Do I have a seconder? Deputy Mayor Town. Comments from the mover?
Sure. One of the members that spoke about nobody's going to win. 100% agree. There's three groups that aren't going to win. This is one group. That's two groups, and then perhaps the Boys and Girls Club. I guess I've been troubled since the start because the word closure, I prefer the word relocation, but that's just my English teaching background. In the surveys that were presented to council, there was 152 submissions on this. Number one was program availability at 86%, and then schedule, cost, facility, and then location ranked 5th. In a subsequent question on that, 39% would not attend another township site for programming. And I have a problem with that number because obviously at the time, the question is skewed because the option was the room at the WJ. And 93% of the 152 respondents wanted adequate programming. I go back to another meeting. A person questioned our 10-year recreation roadmap. And I'll use this analogy. We can get in our car and we can turn on our GPS and we're going to go from A to B. But also, all of a sudden, C comes up in the middle. We have to reroute. And I think any council that looks at a 10-year plan and doesn't adjust as it goes is doing its residents a disservice. I was one of the 2, I believe, who originally did not support the plan. And I'm also going to take a page out of my personal history, having been an educator for 30 years, involved in administration for a decade. And Mr. Parsons spoke of a few things. And, you know, one, I think it was Ms. Rogers, Ms. Sharp, one of the 2, I can't remember which one, talked about growth in the township. And I see it every day, young families. And it's not too long ago for me that we were taking our kid to a private daycare because there was no public spaces. And I think in that sense, we have a responsibility for multi-generational. And the gentleman that spoke with his little boy and his wife here, that's a reality of Loyalists right now. If you walk around parts of the township, there are lots of people looking for daycare, people taking in other people's kids because it's, you know, the unlicensed picture of things. So, 11.1 and the next item on the agenda, they're very closely linked. And I think some of the questions have been answered. The big question is, can you have getting it all under one roof? And right now, I don't see that as an option. I firmly believe in daycare, and I respect the position of many people here, but I'm firm on the daycare. And if it costs me, if I should run again for election, so be it. I think it's the right decision, and it can only help our growing township, and I will stand by that.
Thank you. Seconder, any comments?
I agree with lots of what Councillor Broderick has said. I think and I appreciate members of the public who have recognized that it's difficult when you're up here. And I think throughout this process over the last couple of months, the word I would use to describe what we have been trying to do here in collaboration with staff, obviously at ground level, is accommodation. We are trying to accommodate the feedback that we've had from residents and users of the LAC. We're obviously trying to accommodate childcare spaces. We're trying to accommodate the provincial government's timeline for the funding that will make those spaces possible. And so from our side, the work has been accommodation. And the flip side to that from members of the public is compromise. And I want to acknowledge that we are asking residents and users to compromise. We are asking users to compromise the fact that the LAC has been this particular space that has functioned a particular way and meant a particular thing to those users, and now we are changing that. So, you know, I don't want to not respect members of the public by trying to pretend like, you know, we've kind of come up with every perfect solution. I recognize that we haven't, but we have tried to accommodate, and staff in particular have worked hard to do that. You know, there were comments made about, you know, the change in this report versus, you know, the original report, and to Councillor Broderick's point of view, you know, things do change, and you know, the democratic process has worked here in this situation. You know, we heard the feedback and we responded to the feedback, and staff have responded to the feedback, and staff have worked to make adjustments and change courses to try and, as I say, accommodate. But, you know, no one in any good functioning democratic process, no one is 100% happy 100% of the time. And, you know, so, but, and I, lastly, I agree with Councillor Broderick's final sentiments. I do think this is in overall the best interests of the township. And again, coming back to accommodation, I don't want the narrative here to be that, you know, young people were chosen over old people, that childcare spaces were chosen over seniors. That is a politicized and simplistic way of looking at it that I don't feel is the case. We are trying to accommodate our residents and the needs of our residents, and that requires some compromise.
Thank you. Councillor Ennis.
Thank you, and through the mayor. I'm sympathetic to the need for childcare. My youngest is in junior kindergarten, so I've been through the daycare process for 2 children recently. It's not easy. It's expensive. So I'm sympathetic to the need for childcare and in Loyalist Township, and you know, where responsibility lies for making that happen across various organizations and levels of government. However, I also believe that a large portion of the community sees this closure as a cut to their recreation services, and I find it difficult to argue with them in principle, and I'll leave it at that.
Thank you. Other members of council? Councillor Parks.
Thank you, through the mayor. I wanted to share a few thoughts and wanted to thank all the residents for coming out this evening and the information that you provided to us and for consideration. Also wanted to thank staff for the work that they've done on the reports and the changes that have happened over the last few months in regards to the challenges that were before us. From conversation with several residents in regards to the LAC closure, it really, as the deputy has mentioned, a change of venue or consideration for change of venue. And the original report that came out, it was moving everything under the WHC. So we did take that information back from the residents that was brought forward about the concerns about the location and changed course. And I think staff has provided some fairly substantial alternatives to the LAC to run the programming between the Rhythm Dance Center and also through the Presbyterian Church. You know, I'm on the fence with this still. You know, I think there's a need for both our mature residents to have the programming available to them. I don't know if the President's needs to be the actual location, so long as it's something that's suitable, a suitable location for the residents to do that. There is a need for childcare. I'm a little past that, past Councillor Ennis for childcare, but I could never get childcare in Loyalist Township. I ended up having to go to Kingston to get childcare when my daughter was young. So I'm still on the fence with this. I haven't made a final decision, but I will when the vote comes.
Thank you. Other members of council? Any comments? So just before I call the question, I just wanted to say thank you for everyone for the amount of work that was put into this. For the residents and the users, you shared a lot of information, and through that, whatever the outcome is, you've helped shape the future for the township. And I'd also like to thank staff for the amount of work that they have put into this. While information was received, to work diligently to try and assess and mitigate and find solutions. It was great to see you continue on and try to resolve anything that can be resolved, so that a vote can be taken here this evening. So I want to thank everyone for their steps. So with that, back to the mover for final.
Sure. A couple of the two questions, I think Mr. Sobalski answered the question about 20 hours and decrease in programming. Mr. Parsons answered the question. The biggest question I had is this going to be 100% loyalist people? And again, I won't bore you again with my history, but it's a valuable program, the daycare, but more importantly, the after-school program where kids are supervised, they're doing activities. They're not, what we used to call them in the 70s, latchkey kids. That's what I was. You went home, your parents got home whenever they finished work. But again, I support the recommendations.
Thank you. So with that, I will call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried. The next up is a proposal re BGC Southeast use of 177 Park Crescent, Amherst View, Ontario. Was there any additional information to share on this?
Through you, your worship, I received some late information from the manager of social services with regards to why Amherst View was prioritized for this additional funding opportunity. And it was identified that Loyalist is very underserved. Their goal was not to be able to provide spaces for everyone, but to increase it from 1 in 3 children to 1 in 8 children. And that's why Amherst View was targeted, and it was to provide daycare space for underserved communities as well.
Thank you. So I'll follow the same format as the one before. Are there questions for clarification only that can be asked before a motion? Seeing none, I would entertain a motion. Someone would like to present it? Councillor Willis.
I would move that the report from the Community and Customer Services Department dated June 9th, 2026, re-proposal, re-BCG, Southeast use of 177 Park Crescent, be received, and that council authorize the mayor and clerk to execute a license agreement with BCG Southeast in accordance with the terms outlined in this report for the use of the municipal property currently known as the Leisure and Activity Center, and that council authorize the mayor and clerk to execute a license agreement with BCG Southeast in accordance with the terms outlined in this report for use of the Amherst View Community Hall on school instructional days between 3 p.m. and 6 p.m.
So move. Do I have a seconder? Deputy Mayor Townend. Mover, any comments? Seconder? Other members of council? Councillor Broderick.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just a couple of comments, again, based on my own personal experience. The 49 after-school spaces, and I'm going back a few years here, traditionally they would be bused to the central site, and that is a logistical nightmare. Being a former principal with the bus responsibilities, that would keep those kids in Loyalist. The daycare at 45 spaces, again, Mr. Parsons in the previous item indicated those would be for children in Loyalist. And again, the foundation in terms of the daycare, and I'm no genius when it comes to child rearing, my wife will tell you that it starts the day they're born. And putting 45 children in an environment where there are other children and there are educators, I'll call them educators because that's what they do, is only a good thing for the township. And again, back to what I said earlier about the after-school programs, they're so important, and they'll become more and more important, as the gentleman said previously about the economy and how, you know, I think some of us are lucky enough to have had a parent at home when we were in school, and that rarely exists nowadays.
You? Seconder, comments? You were seconder, weren't you? Okay. Other, made me guess. Councillor Ennis.
Through the mayor, I have a suggested amendment. Is that the appropriate, is now the appropriate time? Make that? Clear?
Is that's to deal with finance? Can we deal with this one first in its entirety? This is just with the related to the agreement. And then if we go to that one, we can, I'll look to you for a supplementary and we can deal with it then. Thank you. Other members of council, any comments? Back to the mover, any final?
No, sir.
Call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried. And I would look to Councillor Ennis for subsequent.
To the mayor, if I could ask the clerk to bring it up on screen if he has it. So I'd propose a supplementary amendment that staff reallocate annual savings and revenues that result from the licensing of the Leisure and Activity Center to capital reserves for future recreation capital investments. And I can speak to it whenever that's appropriate.
Okay, so moved. Seconded. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Parks? Mover, any comments?
Just that, I think there will be members of the public that will be unhappy with losing the Leisure and Activity Center, to state the obvious. I hope that something like this could provide some comfort that by making this change, it does generate some surplus funds, and perhaps we can dedicate those funds to future recreation capital investments, and that offers some comfort to community members who are not in favor of the change, was the idea.
Cool. Seconder?
Just wanted to say thanks to Councillor Ennis to come up with this. I think it's a great opportunity to maybe reduce the sting of what's happening.
Cool. Other members of council, any comment? Councillor Willis, she had her hand up first.
Question for staff?
Yes.
May I ask a question? I see our finance department has joined us. Is this problematic insofar as how would you manage this and how would you identify what funds go into the reserve?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, through you to Councillor Willis. So it can be, we can definitely track those costs and do that or set it up as a transfer to a reserve. I guess my comment would be, or my recommendation back to council would be to potentially not make this decision today, but bring it forward as part of the 2027 budget process. I guess my concern at this moment is there are a number of financial pressures that we will be dealing with as part of the 2027 budget process. And to make this recommendation now without the rest of that information in front of council, I just think it would be beneficial to wait to that point. In doing if we make this or if council makes this recommendation and approves it, then these funds would be definitely earmarked to go into a capital reserve. But then if we then can't use these costs to offset other financial pressures that we may have in 2027. And so just to put it into context, $70,000 on our tax base is approximately a third of a percent of a tax increase. That helps.
Okay. Other questions or comments? Councillor Ennis?
Just through the mayor to say that if there's a suggestion to add, as part of the 2027 budget process, that, and then that staff reallocate, I'm fine with that.
From my position, I appreciate always seeing this come to the budget process. That way, everything can be dealt with financially at the same time, instead of it being ad hoc and then trying to keep it and add it in as a done deal. And for me personally, I could support revisiting this and during the budget process, yes. So if you wish to amend it, then feel free to do so. If you don't, then leave it the way it is. The clerk has fingers that can type faster than I can talk.
Yeah, I'm fine with that, with the wording.
Okay. So the staff bring forward a report related to the reallocated annual savings and revenues that result from the licensing of the leisure and activity center to capital reserves for future recreation capital investments during the 2027 budgetary process. So that's the new one. Councillor Willis.
Just a question for clarification, if I may.
Yes.
So I'm mindful of the fact that we may not be sitting in these seats during the 2027 budget. And so I'm reluctant to make a decision on behalf of the next council. Are we deciding something, or are we simply asking for a staff report?
So it will come back, and correct me if I'm wrong, it will come back with sorry, you go ahead. You're the expert on it.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I guess my intent would be that this would come back with the 2027 budget, and this would be one of the items that would be up for discussion with council, along with all the other items that would be part of the budget process.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favor? Motion is passed. Thank you. Okay. And the next item up is Loyalist Township Emergency Services Training Center naming. We have the chief coming forward. Welcome. Did you have anything to add to the report, or are you just here to answer questions?
I'll add a little bit. This is an unfortunate opportunity, I guess you would say, that we're coming up on the 10-year anniversary of firefighter Pigeon's death. And we've been discussing multiple ways of, creating a memorial and creating a tasteful memorial that isn't challenging to bring across and bring up different emotions with people. So this is an idea that came through our staff, with support from our staff, and then reaching out to the family of the fallen firefighter and getting their support and their blessing for this. So that's something we've done. We're mindful of the community support and how we can engage that. So there's a lot of thought that has gone into this, and we're happy to have the opportunity, but sad that it's there to help. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Are there any questions for clarification? If not, I would entertain a motion. Councillor Broderick.
I would move that the report from the Emergency Services Department dated June 9th, 2026, Loyalist Township Emergency Services Training Center naming be received, and that council approve the commemorative naming of the Loyalist Township Emergency Services Training Center as the Patrick Pigeon Memorial Emergency Services Training Center.
So moved. Seconded by Councillor Parks. Any comments from the mover?
Just two brief one. Again, Patrick was the ultimate volunteer, the sacrifice he made. And I believe this will not just serve as sort of a model or a memorial for the Loyalist Township Emergency Services, but it'll be something the community looks at whole and understand the sacrifices that our staff make on a daily basis. And again, I believe Patrick was the first ever to fall in the line of duty in Loyalist and the predecessor townships. So overdue, but again, a solemn opportunity.
Thank you. Seconder comments? Other members of council? Seeing none, I want to thank you for bringing this forward. I think it is very suiting. As you mentioned in the report, especially with the young recruits, that's where they come in, as well as seniors that are helping train the young recruits. And it's a reminder of always be diligent, always be aware, and always be safe. And so I think it's going to help with part of the training process, as well as recognizing Patrick himself and memorializing it for his family. Thank you. So with that, I will call the question. All in favor? Motion is passed. And now I would take a motion for council to move into committee of the whole. Deputy Mayor Town,
I move the council resolve itself into committee of the whole.
so moved. Seconded by Councilor Ennis. All in favor? Motion is passed.
Yeah, just for our viewing audience, we're just taking about 5 minutes or so recess for a little bathroom break. Everybody was back. Okay, I'll call committee of the whole to order at 7:11. Not the convenience store, but the time. Any declarations of pecuniary interest or the general nature there? Seeing none. We have, drum roll please, the draft 2027 to 2037 Arts, Culture, and Heritage Master Plan. Ms. T, are you starting off the proceedings?
Thank you, Chair. Good evening, Committee of the Whole and members of council. We're very excited to be here this evening to present the draft Arts, Culture, and Heritage Master Plan. I will let our wonderful consultant, Anna Lee, take it away, and happy to answer any questions there may be at the end of the presentation.
Okay. Hi, am I operating this? Or who? Right? Okay, okay. Good evening, Mayor, members of council, committee of the whole. Tonight, we're presenting the Arts, Cultural, and Heritage Master Plan, the 10-year guide for staff and council and how the township will support arts, cultural heritage events, storytelling, volunteers, cultural spaces through to 2037. The key point I want to emphasize really is that at the outset, that this plan does not propose starting over. It actually recognizes the strong community-led cultural activity that's already happening across Loyalist and provides a clear structure to support it. I want to acknowledge the assistance and really dedicated work that the staff have done through the plan development, Lindsay and her team, as well as interdepartmental group that we worked with across departments, and also the community group, working group, the representation from each of the hamlets that helped really the engagement and tested all the strategies throughout and challenged, some of the recommendations and strategies. So it was really helpful. So I want to make sure that, they're well recognized for the development of the plan as well as the community and so on. So and also the community that, co-created those strategies with us, over 400 participants in the sessions as well as the surveys. And so tonight, I just want to start with that piece. It reflects, the focus is on sustainability, not immediate expansion. The estimated 10-year investment is about 1.5 to 2.65 million. This does not include the major infrastructure that may be necessary for heritage buildings because that will require a feasibility study, but the feasibility study itself has been included in those costs. The reason this matters, and the costs are phased and tied to readiness, service levels, and council direction. The reason this matters is because culture is part of a civic infrastructure. So this is a township-wide plan. It's not an add-on. It's positioned as civic infrastructure, meaning that it's provides those pieces across departments and it touches all departments. It's not a standalone service that one unit provides. And Lindsay and her team work cross-departmentally and have been for the last 3 years. But this plan and the structure that we've outlined within it provides that infrastructure piece for that to happen more formally. It's got a strong community-led presence, but there's also some strengths and some pressures from that. The strength of the volunteers, the heritage sites, the events, the community pride and local identity. But volunteer fatigue came up, the aging facilities, the informal coordination and limited staff capacity. So what we've tried to do is take that into account and respond to that by creating a structure what already exists. The planning process was designed to understand both the community experience and municipal capacity at the same time. Hence, we had the community group guiding us, but also an interdepartmental group guiding us. The plan is grounded in engagement and system analysis, and the input came from residents, staff, volunteers, artists, Indigenous contributors, and community partners. We looked beyond programs. We examined governance, staffing, facilities, communications, and volunteer capacity. That's why many of the recommendations are about systems, not just new activities. The engagement revealed a clear picture of this ecosystem in Loyalists. So there's 5 interconnected components that we've focusing on: people and leadership, places and assets, programs and events, storytelling and identity, and governance support. The governance support is a big piece of this. I think it's, we want to make sure that it holds up the plan and that the plan can be implemented throughout the 10 years. So we've done quite a detailed thing in terms of the implementation plan and the measurement and evaluation to go with that. The 6 shared priorities cut across this, and the engagement findings translate directly into these 6 system priorities. And youth participation also came up as well as these other ones, but this was kind of a new piece for
the activities to actually focus on the youth component of it, as well as the Indigenous partnership. There's been a relationship building, and we've tried to illustrate that throughout the plan. The priorities are not sector specific. They're conditions that make this sustainable. So because of the process that we do in terms of the engagement methodology that we use, we've tried directly to tie those engagement findings into those priorities and respond in those strategies and actions. It's not something that we've done on top, come down from on top and just say, you know, this is what we recommend as consultants. We actually did it from bottom up, which is a little bit of a more involved process. So the vision really is around that community-led piece that still remains and that is embedded in everyday life, but also embedded within the civic infrastructure that you carry out internally. So we've done this in terms of those drivers, those strategic drivers that came from community, and we tested those with community as well. We went back out to community, tested those, and solidified those. So the three foundational components of the plan, when we started to get into it through the interdepartmental working group, it was really obvious that every department treats Indigenous relations differently. Every department treats volunteers differently. So we've come up with a consolidated component of the plan, meaning that this will be these foundational pieces are cross-cutting strategies across the township. They're not solo responsibility of cultural services, but it will be that intercultural framework will be internally led by this group. And the institutional integration and municipal alignment will help culture be implemented with the capacity. So again, it's trying to align with the capacity of not just 3 staff, but through a cross-departmental group that can take responsibility for really developing some of those policies around Indigenous relations, around and consolidating the efforts of each of the departments into a more holistic version of treating volunteer sustainability and community leadership as a whole. So those are the big pieces that we found that needed to be really clear. And then we were asked to also do each sector strategy. So an art strategy, an event strategy, and a heritage and museum strategy. So that has also been sussed out in the plan individually. And I know you probably have some questions around the implementation and the phasing, especially for budget, and all this will come back to budget. But the phase 1, this is why we phased it in. So instead of just having a lofty 10-year plan in terms of like, how do we revisit this? How do we cost it out? How do we make sure our capacity matches what the intention is of this plan? We felt it would be helpful to do it in 3 phases. And those phases really around building the foundation, the capacity first, before implementation and expansion, and then integration and sustainability in the last phase. So the service levels is a new way of doing this. We also found through the plan development that it'll be helpful to produce what is now the current service level that is being provided in each of these areas, and also a target service level, and tie that to the phases. So if you will know as council, if we are at service level 1 in this area, let's say the arts, for instance, which is a bit of a gap, if we're at service level 1 in the arts, if we want to get to service level 3, what will that mean? What are the actions that we're going to tie with that service level? What is the budget and what is the capacity we need in order to get there? And so that's phased in, which is, I think, going to be really helpful for the staff and also for you to understand what is required. If we want to raise the service level from a 1 to a 4, what does that mean? If we want to transition from a service level 2 to a service level 3, what does that mean? If we want to reduce from a service level 3 to a service level 1, what does that mean? So we've mapped the whole implementation plan in that regard, and attached measurement indicators, progress indicators, and outcome indicators so that you can actually see in the plan if those things have been achieved. As we talked about this, the budget in terms of the cost planning is also phased in, and like I mentioned, there's operating cost, operating expenses, and capital expenses. We went into great detail over many days to cost out every action. And this is a roll-up of that. So we did not submit that lengthy Excel document to you, but in essence, this is what it looks like in its breakdown. But there's an action row, there's a cost split between operating expenses and capital expenses. There's a phase roll-up, and there's an itemized listing of every action and the cost associated with every action. So that has been done, and that's available. I mean, we're going to, do a little more work on it, but this is where it came from. So I guess this is, what I'm asking for is for council to be treated as a township-wide implementation framework, not the sole responsibility of Lindsay and her team, that you formalize that intercultural framework and the interdepartmental group that has been formed through the development of the plan, and formalize that into a sanctioned group of departments and representatives so that we can look at this more holistically. That we look at phase one staffing and foundational work, and that Lindsay and her team also investigate external funding and capital readiness in terms of that. So setting it up for the house in order so that if there's money to be received from grants and so on, that the foundation and the alignment is there first. And looking at giving that structure and connectedness so that you're ready for that future in terms of that. So very measured implementation as opposed to kind of a rough shot. This is where we want to be in 10 years. We're looking at after year one, after year two, after year three, revisit how much progress have we made? Do we achieve those outcomes? Do we need to redo it? And what is the service level contribution? If we raise that service level, what does that mean? What will that come back? What is the impact of raising that service level? So, yeah, I think that's, endorsing the 3-phase roadmap, confirming that framework and shared reporting, and advancing phase one capacity to get this started. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, committee. Questions on the presentation, on the report, on the plan itself? Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. The presentation did answer one of the questions I was going to ask, which was how this is a lot of work. How can it be done by HCT? But it's a multi-departmental team that would be working on it from the presentation. So that would help disperse some of the workload to be able to achieve the phases. Just have a couple questions. In the report, it mentioned if this isn't endorsed, we potentially could end up missing out on future funding. So I guess, as we see in some of the other departments, the funding that potentially may come forward, there would be stipulations that there would be a plan, or it would fall into something more organized than we want to grab, like a pot of gold if we can. I guess, is that what we're expecting for this plan to be able to help us with?
Through the chair, yes, thank you for the question. Yes, that's correct. Quite often in grant applications, we do see a requirement that there is a master plan or strategic plan to support the project that is being applied for. In any case, having a document such as this that's endorsed by council will strengthen an application significantly. We've talked over the years about CMOG funding, for example, and having a plan like this that is endorsed by council and is supported would significantly, increase our likelihood of being able to be a contender for something like that.
Thank you. I just have one follow-up. Down in Appendix B, I believe it was, it said one of the actions is to introduce cultural infrastructure considerations into municipal planning. And I was just wondering if there would be some examples or something to be able to draw that picture for me. I think my engineering mind doesn't go there.
Yes, through the chair. Just to clarify earlier, I said CMOG funding, so that's the Community Museum Operating Grant funding. Just to clarify that. But for the question, yes, obviously one of the big things with this master plan is that we're looking at arts, culture, and heritage as core civic infrastructure for the entire township. So making sure that all departments and divisions are working together to bring unique ideas and perspectives into how we can incorporate arts, culture, and heritage into Loyalist Township and strengthen those sectors. There's lots of different creative ways to do it. For example, in the OP, we can look at including cultural assets and heritage buildings within the OP, which could support policies and the protection and continued use of those properties is one example. In the secondary plan, we can look at incorporating opportunities for public art and gathering places. And another example in the CIP, we can look at including incentives for adaptive reuse ideas. So there's lots of different creative ideas. And as Annalee mentioned, through the work of developing the plan, we did have an interdepartmental working group with different staff from different departments and divisions who helped to brainstorm some of these ideas and kind of test them and talk them out. So some of the work has started, and I think that there are a lot of very interested and engaged staff who would be able to help us make some cool things happen.
Thank you.
Can I just add to that? I'll just add to that through the chair. In the plan, you'll see an actual alignment directly to bylaws and policies and plans as a chart. So and that was through the help of that interdepartmental committee, that group, that we actually sussed out exactly where this can be embedded and where we can actually see that kind of integration, institutional integration of culture, like civic-wide planning. And so they were really instrumental in putting that together with us.
Councillor Willis.
Money question. When you were doing the costing and you're looking at a 10-year plan, were you factoring in inflation, or are those dollars all 2026 dollars, so the cost will grow over time?
Mm-hmm. Yes, we did not include inflation in the actual action, so they're 2026 dollars.
Others. You can it is committee of the whole, so you can make comments before I put a motion on the floor.
Okay. Thank you. I attended a couple of sessions. I must admit I was late, but they were at the Giddy Goat, so I made up for my missed time. And just a couple of things I read, and the idea of coordinated versus organic planning. Again, we often get to a point where we're planning on the run and we don't know where we're going, but we got a plan. Like the idea of the responsibility across all departments. The financial principles, I think you've pretty well laid it out, and I believe I'm not sure if 100% sure here, but you said affordability first, which I think, we're obviously going to do budgets and stuff and look at that. And just a couple of things I thought, that's kind of neat. Somebody quoted in the report as saying each village has its own heartbeat, but sometimes we don't hear each other. And again, it's all about telling our stories in Indigenous community. And I'll just say one thing about the public art and gathering spaces. Can you start in this room right here? This room needs some work.
I did. with trepidation. Um, Others? Sure.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would recommend that the report from the Community and Customer Services Department, Heritage, Culture, and Tourism Division dated June 9th, 2026, redraft 2027-2037 Arts, Culture, and Heritage Master Plan be received, and that the Committee of the Whole endorse the draft 2027-2037 Arts, Culture, and Heritage Master Plan, that the draft plan be made available to the public on the Engage Loyalists site for comment from June 10th, 2026 to June 30th, 2026, and that the final 2027-2037 Arts, Culture, and Heritage Master Plan be brought forward to Council for endorsement at the July 14th, 2026 regular session of Council, including all community comments received from the public as a separate attachment.
Seconded by Councillor Parks. Comments on the motion?
I just want to comment that over 400 participants, that's a pretty amazing number. So well done with that. And also, I really like the format of this as well. I found it very easy to follow. Again, it sort of matched the way my brain thinks a little bit, where you go to the appendix, there's charts, it's very clearly laid out. So, you know, you got your strategies, your phases, and you can go through it very easily and know exactly where we're going and where we want to be. So I just wanted to say kudos for that. Well done.
And we'll be endorsing the plan on Bastille Day, 14th of July. There's your history for you, Paul. All right, call the question. All those in favor? Motion is carried. Thank you to staff and thank you, Annalee. All right, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn Committee of the Whole. Mr. Mayor, seconded by Councillor Innes. All those in favor? Motion is carried. We are adjourned at 7:34.
Okay, so we'll resume the council meeting. Do we have any notices of motion this evening? Seeing none, do we have any direct motions to be presented this evening? Seeing none, we do have the consent agenda, and we can take care of all items at once or separate it. Is there any that wish to be separated? Seeing none, I would take a motion. Deputy Mayor Town.
I move that all items in the consent agenda dated June 9th, 2026 be approved as presented and that the necessary action be taken.
So moved, seconded by Councillor Parks. Any comments from the mover, seconder, other members? Call the question. All in favor? Motion is passed. Announcements. Are there any announcements this evening? None. I just want to mention that Councillor Broderick and myself, we did attend the Air Cadets graduation night and at the rec center. It was a great event. It's so encouraging to see all these young adults that are working hard, building their future right from our home base here in Loyalist. And the speaker was a great speaker. And she was a Loyalist resident that has gone on to excel in the forces and is running her own squadron now. So it was a very good event. Yes, please.
Just to add something to that, and I was totally floored by the fact that I think the number that rings in my head was 45. They're all members of, live in Loyalist Township, which I thought, hey, not too bad.
Yeah. No, and kudos to all the volunteers and everyone that makes that happen. So with that, I would take a motion for the confirmatory bylaw. Councillor Broderick. Oh, sorry. Did I call the question on the consent agenda? No. I didn't? Call the question. All in favor of the consent agenda? Motion is passed. Thank you for catching that. I swore I did. And now I would take a
Okay, thank you.
motion.
I recommend that bylaw 2026-32 to confirm the proceedings of Council of Loyalist Township be enacted and passed, and that the mayor and clerk be authorized to sign and seal.
So moved. Seconded by Councillor Parks. All in favor? Motion is passed. Caught that one. And I would take a motion to adjourn. Councillor Willis, seconded by Deputy Mayor Townend. All in favor? Motion is passed. We are adjourned at 7:38.